document that detailed the case and detailed for what Kenya was asking for, which primarily is some sort of, clemency. And then secondarily, Kenya does not have the death penalty. Right. And the sovereign, rights of Kenyan citizens apply. So trying to evoke that she is a Kenyan citizen, can we punish her according to our laws? Or at least the second request was really about repatriation.
And then the question would be,
yes,
if at all this repatriation were to be successful, is there a possibility of retrial, if we're going to look at it in the Kenyan context? And of course, if this is determined in court and perhaps the court finds her in a way innocent, or perhaps she has a case, do you suppose that then we take a different approach? And then what would be the equivalent penalty as to what then Vietnam is doing, that is death by hanging, in comparison to what we have in the country?
Yeah, so those are three different questions. So let me finish the other two layers.
Right.
The other one is more of social pressure. So you're seeing a lot of Kenyans online. Those are an appeal by the family, which apparently had been trying to get people to pay attention to this matter, even though they were in the dark until a communication was made again to the twin sister, who communicated to the mother that, hey, this is what has happened. She is being tried for this and she's scheduled to hang. They came in much later. The final layer, which is now what you're asking about, is really the way forward. Because one, this formal appeal has been made, and it's a written document. Now, the good thing about it is that the Deputy Foreign Minister, who has authority to speak on behalf of the President and the nation of Vietnam, has said that it is being considered. That's a good thing, because the first request, which is sort of a preliminary legal issue, is to have the execution stayed. So you're mixing legal, political, diplomatic, now social pressure and all kinds of things. But now to answer your question, you can see some wheels already rolling. Right. A lot of her side of the story had not been heard. So there's been all kinds of rumors and innuendo and people just speculating. Some people say she traveled by bus to Ethiopia. Some people say she took a plane. There are all kinds of, different versions. One which says she was completely innocent. Another one which said she was partially aware of what was going on. She was engaged in a transaction where she was to be paid 167,000 shillings by a person who's now been named. And I believe the authorities have caught up with that person, and they have commenced that investigation to answer some part of your question. A person who keeps coming up, John Joroge. But now there's a third version of the story which would suggest she was fully complicit. So until that investigation is done, nobody really knows. The answer to your question about the equivalent penalty, in Kenya it would have to be a life sentence, because we do no longer practice capital punishment. It was ruled against human law. But remember, the first request being prior to repatriation is clemency. They are appealing to that. So if the government on the other side offers clemency, then it's not incumbent upon the government of Kenya, or the obligation to do that, is removed, unless the onus is still on the Kenya authorities to determine what to do. The long and short of the story is that her side of the story is yet to be fully heard, but preliminary investigations, of course, have to commence once a matter reaches this level of publicity. And there seems to be a lot of traction, because now we know other people that were involved in that particular transaction, and the primary person I believe, is in the hands of the authority.
I had some guests here yesterday who argue